I'm headed out to pick up another knitting machine. And I know that my last like 3 videos have been I got another knitting machine, but this one is special. Of course, they're all special, but this is an antique industrial knitting machine. And I don't know much about it. I know it was manufactured by Dubied, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but probably in the 1930s or the 1940s. I have a few photos. I don't know what model it is. I don't know what condition it's in, but I do know a bit about its history. It belonged to the previous owner's mother. She used it to run a small business first in Italy and then in the US to make clothing for friends and family. And it's been sitting idle for a while, and the current owner is just looking for a good home for it. So that's me. This is not the first time I've taken in a knitting machine that I knew would need some rehab. It's not the first time I have taken in a knitting machine sight unseen, condition unknown, but this is a little more advanced than what I'm used to. This is not a domestic machine where there are manuals online and there are lots of people who know how they work and can help get it fixed. This is going to be a big undertaking, but I'm so excited because this is not just a knitting machine. This is like a piece of history. I don't know if it has any patterning mechanisms. I know it doesn't have punch cards. I don't think it's one of the Dubier that has the like low and high needle things. I've been doing a lot of research, but I'm excited to get my hands on this machine and get it set up and try to get it working. Adrian is meeting me over at the pickup spot. We're going to see if we can get it back to my place. The whole thing probably won't fit in my car, so hopefully we can split it between the two. It should be mostly cast iron, and it's probably going to be big and clunky, but old machinery like that, if it's been taken care of, and it seems like this one probably has, lasts forever. So let's do this. It's here. You want to see it? Look at her. So I got some clarification from the previous owner. It wasn't her mother's, it was her grandmother's. So this is older than I think it is. And I found a comparable machine in 1 or 2 blog posts that should be from the 1930s. So this is probably also from the 1930s. These are yarn carriers, and it's got a color changer. Look at that. It only has 2 colors, but it changes the way that the carriage catches the yarn carrier. And this is how it knits. It's got this long arm that you move around in a circle. And it moves the carriage back and forth. I don't have enough room for it as it's currently set up, but that is how it's supposed to work. It came with weights. I'm not touching these yet. I'm waiting on a lead test kit because they're heavy and they're old and they're metal and they might be lead. And then it also has a yarn winder. These little spindles fit onto the end of this, and then this belt moves over here and it spins it, and you I guess you just guide the yarn as you go. And then it's got a bunch of old tools. It's got like these cast iron wrenches, and then what appears to be a teeny tiny garter bar, spare brushes, oil. I don't know what these are, but I think they have something to do with like disabling the carriage in one direction, because I think they fit onto these rails. They're about the right size for that. But I'll have to do some more research and see if I can figure that out. Actually, oh, they do fit on there. Yeah. There you go. It's got a few spare needles, but not a lot, which is good because I cannot find any replacement needles for this online. The bed's in decent shape. Some of the needle buds are really bent, but they seem to still knit. I'm going to continue looking for replacement needles for this. This is an 8 gauge, meaning 8 needles per inch. They're very fine needles, but it knits. Like, it needs to be oiled, it needs to be cleaned, but it knits. Watch this. So I've got some needles selected down here. They're not in the best shape, but watch this. Like, I think this needs maybe an hour or 2 of work, and then it will be fine. Like, it's just gonna work. This is the row counter. It's clearly tripped by the circular thingy. Like this whole rod will rotate, and then this guy clicks up. So when this gets tripped, it counts up, and then the counter's there, and then this is how you reset it. I love these mechanical things. And it looks like it also has some system for racking down here with probably this lever. And like there's a pin in there, if you can see it. So it probably goes back and forth a little bit. It doesn't have a patterning mechanism. Doesn't have any of the buttons you're normally used to. I'm assuming that these control tension. I still don't have a manual for this. I looked online and found one for a newer model, but not for this one in particular. So it might be a lot of trial and error to figure out what's going on here. Oh, and it has a tension mast. This guy here. And I haven't unwrapped it yet because it desperately needs to be cleaned. It's nice and I believe the tension wires are actually steel or something. Yeah, they're probably steel, and they need to be cleaned. And then we have cast-on cones down here. These normally come with a stand. This one does not have one, which, I mean, it probably got lost to time. Adrian has a heavy-duty table that she got with her CK35 that might work for this, but I'm also looking at sawhorses or tool stands that you can get at various hardware stores that can support a lot of weight, because this is probably, I don't know, at least 200 pounds. It took 3 of us to get it out of my car. But the problem is that I can't just clamp it to a table because the fabric comes down right in the center and the supports are on the side. The supports are over here. And I need something with a space in the middle. That's why I'm looking at tool stands that are kind of skinny and just put them next to each other and then have the work come down in the middle of the bed. It's so cool. So I think that's where this video ends. There's an Abby Cox video where she acquires a couture gown from the 1920s, and as she's unwrapping it, she has this moment of panic, oh my god, I should not have purchased this because I feel like I can't take care of it the way it should be taken care of, and that's a bit how I'm feeling right now. Of course, there's a big difference between silk from the 1920s and machinery from the 1920s, and this is from the 30s anyway, so it's fine. But, if not me, who? I mean, Adrian is who, the president of the local guild and my friend who helps me out with a lot of this stuff. But, I have a bit of reverence for this machine. I have a bit of reverence for all old machinery because part of it is that I'm an engineer, but also, I'm a software engineer. I deal with a lot of big, complex, abstract things, but ultimately none of them are real. None of the systems I build will ever physically exist. But this stuff is real. And we forget our history so quickly, and I love to see how complex machinery used to be, especially with textiles, because textiles is where it all started. At some point, I will post a big rant about punch cards. Probably the next time somebody tries to mansplain punch cards to me, but modern engineers don't understand and don't appreciate where we came from and all of the history that comes with this. So I feel like I care enough about this machine that I'm going to take good care of it, and I'm going to do what I can to restore it to its former glory and make sure that it is used and loved and share that with the internet. So that's why I'm okay owning this thing that I probably shouldn't own. I'm going to end this video by asking for help, because I've kind of exhausted my normal channels looking for a service manual for this thing, looking for anybody who has worked with one before or has restored one before, and I found 1 or 2 blog posts, and that's it. There's a manual for later versions of this, probably from the 40s and 50s, and the manual's in really rough shape. The PDF that was scanned, the original manual was torn and degraded, and I'm gonna get what I can out of that, but it's really not a match for this, so it might be a lot of trial and error. But because the pieces are all metal, and you could only make things so complex with the manufacturing capabilities they had back in the day, so I think I should be able to figure it out. But If you know anyone who has ever restored one of these or has documented the process, please let me know. If you know where I can find a manual, even if it's not in English, Google Translate will get me pretty far. If there's anything you want to see on this machine, let me know. I will probably go over it in great detail. There will be a lot more videos on this machine, but that's going to depend on how long it takes me to restore it and how long it takes to find parts and help and all the things that I need to do this. I have some cleaning supplies on the way, and that will help me at least get the grease off of this and oil it and get it going again. I think a lot of the follow-up videos are going to be shorts, at least for now, as I'm learning how to use it and getting it ready for like a longer form video. Something else I'm looking for is any machine knitting patterns from the 1930s. I have patterns from the late 1800s and I have some from the 50s, but like nothing in between. What I would love to do is restore this and then use it as it would have been used when it was new. Like make whatever they were making in the 30s to... I don't even know. I don't even know what the trends were and the fashion was for knits back then that weren't hand knits. So if you have any of those, that would be wonderful. This is very similar to what they would have knit the Victorian cycling sweater on, and I don't think I've talked about that, but so I made a whole video on the Victorian cycling sweater. There's an example in the V&A museum that I looked at and copied, but also like written hand knitting patterns. But looking at the one they have in the V&A museum, that was machine knit. That was not hand knit. You don't do that kind of like racking rib stuff by hand. It's just a nightmare. But on the machine, it's like you turn a knob and it works. So this machine is very similar to what they would have knit that on. So I can absolutely make one of those with something that's close to historically accurate to what they would have used. I'm so excited for this. I heard back from Adrian. She took a look at the industrial table that she got with her CK35, which is the industrial, well, the semi-industrial brother knitting machine, and it's not going to work for this because of the way that it needs to be mounted. So I have ordered some power tool stand things that can carry a lot of weight, because this is actually starting to crush my little folding table here, which is why I have this big Mac Pro box under here. So if the table gives out, at least it won't hit the floor. But I won't be able to do much until that arrives. Yeah, so what do you think of this piece of history? Are you as terrified of it as I am? Oh boy. Alright, thanks for watching. Happy knitting.